Cool. So today is 19th of July, CFF Technical Oversight Committee. Agenda for today then, review actions from last week. We're not having an update from the Service Management Working Group because London has melted. Next steps for CF Day, review the outstanding PRs, and then there's a couple of questions that have been forwarded to us for any other business. Up first then, actions from last week. Draft RFC to discuss supply chain security process. Let me find a link for that one, because that is one I didn't get earlier.
Oh, again, I think that's just a reminder, like, to draft this at some point. Yeah.
Perhaps this week, then, can we assign that as an action onto somebody to make sure it gets done? Or is that not really something that anybody here can?
I think this is probably going to require quite a lot more research and dedication. But this did come up as a pretty deep discussion topic a few months ago.
It was like brought up by the cloud.gov folks, right? And then they didn't really want to work on the RFC, so that's where we left it, I guess. It was like, no, there's no people, like it has been brought up as like a thing that we need to do something with, but there's nobody who like wants to take it on, basically, at this point in time.
Is this something we want to progress?
Like from the VMware side, we're still trying to figure out like the internal requirements, so we don't know like how much we want it. Like it is something that we probably have to deal with at some point, but currently it's not concrete enough to take action. That's my understanding of the current status.
Yeah, I think this seems long-term important, but not urgent, which means we maybe need to put it in a section other than like our recurring action item review list. But I don't really know where that should go. I mean, it could go as some sort of issue. Maybe it could go as an issue on the community repository, just so that it has some visibility, but we're not having to trip over it each week.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's also an important but not urgent topic for, as far as I understand, the SAP requirements. Let's say
it's like yeah, it's like this North Star thing, right? We all know that we probably have to go there at some point. Just like a bit uncertain how we get there at this point.
Maybe we could convert this into like file an issue on the community repo about like requesting an RFC for this kind of supply chain security process, potentially involving the SLSA levels.
Anybody particularly keen to go and do that?
You could put it on me. We'll see if I remember to do it.
Thank you. Oh, helps to spell. There we go. Okay. It's done. Right. Request 333, reviewer teams for working groups. What is needed on that?
I think we all need to collectively weigh in on the reviewer RFC. I say there was a little bit more discussion. Stephan, you responded to a couple of things.
Yeah, we discussed it in the copy open office hour, and at least there was the idea it could be useful, this group, to grant access to pipelines to additional people that don't have approval role, but you don't want to, let's say, publish your pipelines completely anonymously because of credentials and logs, etc. So that was one use case that came up. And there was also, yep. What else? And I raised the question if reviewers should be part of this overall, but that's then more a technical thing. Once we know we want to have reviewers, then we can sort out these details. So from application runtime interfaces, there's an interest from services as well, as I understood.
If this needs folks to spend some time with this away from here, should we just take this as an action for everybody stick a deadline on it, i.e. like end of the week type, and then come to it next week.
Well, Stephan, you had requested some changes or at least some clarifications on this, right? I think in some of the previous review that you had done.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's also, yeah, more technical. I mean, the main question first is, do we want to have reviewers or not? It means one more GitHub team per working group area, automatically generated. That's not a problem. And then there are some, if we say yes or no, then comes the technical detailed stuff. So,
and this would be per area, right? Not per work. Yeah.
Per area.
Okay. I mean, since this is an RFC, we generally want to keep moving discussion forward on it until we feel like everything is resolved to the point where it could enter a final comment period, or where we decide it's too controversial and we don't want to pursue it anymore. But it would be good to keep it moving along. Ruben, I know you have limited time to work on this since you're technically on parental leave right now.
Oh, vacation. Currently, it's vacation.
Oh, it's just vacation now. Okay, well, never mind then. What are you doing?
It's a staycation, so I was in the neighborhood basically.
So what I could do, I could take on here and let's say solve or propose something for these technical questions, but I'm unsure about the use case and the requirements. So we have seen some demand by 2 working groups, by 3 actually. Yeah, Ruben.
Good enough.
Good enough, right? So I can bring it along in the idea to make it an RFC and say, yes, we want to, with the intention to bring it in, and then we can, vote on it. And maybe that's an idea. I would modify this RFC here. I'm unsure about cross-referencing the other RFCs because the problem with the RFC style is that you need to read everything and then you get a picture and can try to, do we want to amend the other RFCs or not? This is something, I don't know.
Kind of feel like I would want to leave existing ones immutable unless there are minor corrections, but we could have amendments to them as part of this overall.
Is it worth amending the existing ones to point forward to new ones that modify them?
Okay. So just a cross-reference, basically.
Yeah, that I think would be a good idea.
Okay, so what is the action out of that? I didn't quite understand.
Stephan, you said you're going to continue to make some revisions on this to resolve the discussions and move it forward. So hopefully we can maybe in the next week or so get it to the point where we want to open the final comment period and then have it accepted.
Perfect, thank you. Right, that's everything from last week. Next steps for CF Day then.
Yeah, we're going to Detroit. Very exciting. We put out a save the date last week, just to the CF members mailing list, CF dev mailing list, and the general Slack channel. So hopefully that's been disseminated widely enough in the overall community that people are starting to make travel plans and whatnot. The next steps will be next week. We are going to launch the CFP and hopefully have a website set up and sponsorship prospectus. The one bit of business I wanted to just chat with you all about is setting up a program committee. We need someone to actually review the CFP and put together the one-day program. So I chatted with Eric yesterday, and Ram and I have chatted about this a bit. So what we're thinking we're going to do is have a call to the community so people can nominate themselves. Whoever wants to express interest or put their name up can do that. but I thought the TOC might want to be involved in this in some way. Doesn't have to be. I'm sure some of you or some of the people you work closely with would be ideal for this. And I'm not quite sure what kind of community response we'll get from that forum, largely because it is going to be work that needs to be done in August, but we'll see. So just wanted to, see what you all thought about this, and yeah, go from there.
That's all perfectly reasonable to me. I don't
Okay.
think you'll get much from the government side. Just don't have that kind of people, but yeah, it sounds like a sensible plan to me.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, ideally, I think 3 people would be the goal for this committee. Probably not 2 people from the same company, kind of standard approach. So yeah, okay, great. Well, if there are no objections, Ram and I will launch that in the next day or 2, and just put a call out to see who wants to be involved in that, and we could we'll take a look at what kind of response we get at the next TOC meeting, and then get that squared away, and then next week launch the CFP and go from there. If anyone has any other questions about the event in general or how it's going to be structured, please just reach out. Cool.
All right. Outstanding PRs then. Does anybody have a preference whether we look at the ones that need merging or discussion first?
Well, I know we've got Amelia here probably to talk about the garden improver thing, so let's at least talk about that one.
Okay. So urgent expansion of ARP garden reviews, that's 361. Does anybody want to summarize?
Yeah, so my team at VMware maybe 8 months ago took over the garden code base, none of us being garden approvers except for me, since I'm the working group tech lead, so I have admin access to everything. Several of our team members did have access just based on those old teams that are now gone, and now I am the only person with merge access to garden repos that actually works on garden, and I'm about to go away for 6 weeks. So all these things at the same time have led to a little bit of an unsustainable culture where I can't be the only one who merged things, or reaching out to Eric. So I'm asking to go around the approver, whatever we call them, requirements, and add a handful of people to the garden approvers list. And I'm also attempting to make the fastest merge PR in this. So 2 things here. So I decided my cutoff was going to be, since I was asking for not following the normal approval process, that only the team members who have been working on Cloud Foundry for at least 5 years. So still a high standard for who we're adding. We're not just adding new team members, who just joined. And there's the list below. And I would open this up to anyone from any other company or any other community member who meets similar requirements and has interest in garden, would also be happy to consider them as well.
We've already got 2 approvals on it.
Yeah, makes absolutely sense for me.
Yeah.
Please let us do our CI work.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, I was gone for a day and I had so many pings being like, we need you to merge this. We need you to merge this. Okay, does that mean I can click the merge button? Is that enough? Am I allowed to click the merge button?
I think we need 1 more approval from the
We have
TOC.
1
Just
more.
done it.
Do we get one?
Perfect.
Oh, well, there we go. Done then. Thanks, Andy.
Thank
No
you.
worries.
I appreciate you allowing me to go around the rules. I'm clicking the button. Oh, so many. Look how fast that was. It felt great. Thank you all.
Just need to know which meeting to join.
Amelia, would it make sense to eventually consolidate this group in with the Diego one or something? I mean, I hadn't checked exactly how much overlap there is between the two groups. Again, this is not, these things we do later.
Yeah, maybe that's something we could consider. I had kept the old garden team members who still help us out, I would say, in an advisory role for them to be separate, but maybe if we eventually rotate them out, might make sense.
Yeah, one thing I've been thinking in general is as we focus more on the official teams and try to get into a process of requesting reviews from approvers and reviewers, then we may be seeing more people select to drop their approver status if they're continually getting pings about things they don't care about. So maybe we could just see how the natural forces work once we get more into that groove of using the official teams. But also might be good to do a cleanup pass at some point.
Yeah. I suspect though that there are some people who might say, I can work on Diego and I have absolutely no interest in responding to these garden issues.
Yeah, but so if you start to auto assign with GitHub, you can like take people out of the rotation there. So.
We don't have anything else on that one. Is that one for a future discussion, do we think? Or are we happy as is?
I think happy as is.
Okay. On to the spicy PR then. Add RFC to remove non-standard GitHub teams, which I believe there's a risk that we may be able to merge that today, I think.
Yeah, again, one thing I noticed after we met last week was this isn't the PR to do the thing. This is a PR to add the RFC. So we probably should have it go through that final comment period as well as per the RFC process. As we've been getting a bunch of discussion about this, I have been thinking maybe we need to explicitly state a couple of exemptions in the proposal. One, we might want to say that we're going to allow like that team section of cloudfoundry.yaml should be empty, but will allow some teams to exist just so we have this escape hatch. Otherwise, the language is pretty rigid to say like just delete all of the teams that are in there. And then the other thing that that Chris and I were talking about was, as we've been taking a look at the other private repos that are in the CF org, a bunch of them are just administrative, and we kind of notionally carved out the space for those in the team ownership or work group ownership of repositories RFC. But it's not like none of that administrative stuff is really structured as a working group or anything. And so this might be a place at least to keep some teams that have that administrative scope for them as well. To say like, okay, well, these are, this is Chris and Ram, and I know Steve Greenberg does some of that administrative stuff as well. Like this is the team that's going to be assigned to those administrative repos that are private, just so we can have that space for them. So again, knowing that like we're not supposed to delete those teams could be beneficial as part of the language of this RFC. So I'm happy to take on an action item to like make some amendments or changes on this RFC to add those the exemptions with still the North Star of having no working groups with shadow teams in this area over the long term or even medium term, and to at least have some statement about carving out that space for administrative teams, because this is going to reset all of the teams in the org, right? Like if we, apart from the ones that are auto-generated from the working group and TOC definitions, right, Stephan?
Yes.
Yeah.
They would all disappear.
Yeah.
But there were some stats that Greg generated around private repos. There's like a lot of private repos that are still not part of a working group, right? And those are not all administrative repos.
Right. Yeah. I think people have been incrementally adding those to their working group scope. I think we've got a bunch of PRs that are adding those right now. But
Yeah, I think we just added 7 or so to ours.
I mean, if we remove the teams, let's say in the first PR, we simply remove everything, then it will crash, of course, and people will wake up, and then we can or should have in place a recommendation how to resolve it. So recommendation number 1, of course, is add the private repos to the working groups. That should be done and easily fixed. And if then some use cases come out that cannot be solved, then we can add again a team.
Yeah, actually, one thing that occurs to me is for those temporary working group teams, maybe we could have a recommendation in RFC that if we're adding them back, like label them explicitly or name them explicitly so that it's clear that they're temporary and we should delete them, like temp or delete me or something like that.
There are some related questions in the TOC Slack channel by Silvestre from the Autoscaler team regarding admin access. Don't know. I'm not too deep into GitHub stuff. Yeah. So one possible solution that was could look like is that we change the access to the repos from write to maintainer, but I don't know exactly which writes are then included, but maybe that solves the problem. So for instance, I can very well understand that an area where the repository is living wants to change branch protection rules and want to be able to integrate the CI process in a good way. And what I think the rules that we set up from the TOC is that you should not delete the repository and its content. So this is something that should not be possible by the working groups without all the formalism, or only the working group lead. I mean, with admin rights, you could do everything, but it should not be that broad. And maybe this maintainer role is a better compromise between admin and write. This is something that where maybe every TOC, maybe also as part of this RFC here, we could, because this is a side effect, right? Maybe we could think about that and propose to increase those rights. I don't know if it solves everything, but maybe we can find out.
Right. Would that amend, is it RFC 5 that grants the different groups rights?
That would, it's again these cross things.
Yeah,
this RFC requires a change. Should we change it or not? I mean, this is a real content change. So does it need then an RFC, a new RFC to change those access rights?
Yeah, I mean, we could pack it into the spicy PR as being generally team related.
Maybe one solution would be that we keep one, and if it's a new RFC every time, I don't care so much, with the complete list of access rights, and then we delete RFC 5 and create RFC 15 with the current compiled reciting groups. It makes cross-referencing more difficult because stuff disappears, but well, they're still replaced by, I think, links inside, so that's maybe, Otherwise, we need lawyers to implement something.
Yeah, so Stephan, you're saying have a new RFC that just states all of the policies for all the teams in one place, and then
whenever we bigger changes, we simply copy the old RFC and replace it with a new RFC number and the resulting set. So that's something where then the reviewers could go inside, and maybe the spicy PR could also contribute, and then we make a new version.
Right, and we could change RFC 5 just to say it's superseded by RFC 15 or whatever that to be. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that could work out.
Yep.
So then the action there is on you to go do that, and then once that's done, do we want to open this up for the final comment period, or do we want to wait till next week to start that?
I think we can put out a call for approving the final comment period once we've got those revisions in, if we haven't gotten to it, like enough of a approval quorum by next week, then we can vote synchronously on it.
Okay. Sounds fine to me. Next one up then, remove Andy Payne from Runtime Working Group.
Yeah, I did something here because Andy was actually working for us for a certain amount of time. And I created a new PR and amended Andy's PR, and we could have a look at that one. It's not 280, but it got replaced by 365.
Okay.
And that simply adds the removal from the TOC, from the workgroup charter. So now formally we need a +1 by Greg. But we could of course also use Greg's comments on 280 as a +1. I don't know.
If we were asking for his approval on this one, then surely we should also ask for it on the new one.
I think he kind of on 280, Greg implicitly gave an approval because he said if Andy doesn't update the charter, I can open another PR to replace this one. So I guess he hadn't technically approved
that's
280 either.
I can't approve, of course, because I opened it. I just was wondering. So yeah, we need 2 more and then we can merge it and then close the 280.
Ruben, I see you just approved. I'll go ahead and approve as well.
Okay, so it just needs Greg's review, and then do we want to close 280 off preemptively?
Yeah, because 365 duplicates that, right? It's that and the charter change.
Yeah.
I'll do that now. Okay. So we'll come back to this next week and see if we've had approval from Greg and merge it next week.
I mean, like Greg already seen it. He's aware of the context.
Yeah,
I think the idea was to merge it now, right? Then we don't
Yeah.
have to put it on the agenda again. I mean, there's no, there are no questions, etc. I mean,
Okay.
unfortunately, Andy is working now on a different project, so not anymore on Cloud Controller.
Okay, if we're happy as committee, then that we don't need to wait for Greg, I'll hit the merge button.
Yeah.
And done.
Cool.
Okay, transfer Bosch bootloader to app runtime. That is number 325.
Yep. So we had a discussion in the application runtime deployments working group meeting, and Dave actually raised some concerns about moving it and wanted to discuss it in the VMware area. First, the main reason was that Bosch Bootloader, first of all, seems to be quite closely related to Bosch, and the CF deployment add-on was just this load balancer thingy. Then there were other use cases like setting up concourse, but that decreases more and more because these days the concourse is typically set up with this Kubernetes approach. So he had some concerns, and that's why Jochen removed the approval again, and it should be discussed first and found out what is the best home here, and also what is the future of this bootloader, in which direction should it evolve before there's a decision.
Yeah. I think the idea came from the looking at the pipeline, right? It mostly just tests with CF deployment, right? So yes, it also takes Bosch deployment to set something up, but then it goes ahead and deploys CF deployment. So you need context on that CF deployment part to be able to get the pipeline green. Like there's no real, I mean, in its current state, there is some technical debt that needs to be resolved. I don't know who should be taking on that. So probably not the deployments working group, because that probably requires some Terraform knowledge. But once it's in a stable state and it's just CI, then I think most of the changes will come from like, CF deployment changes. And that's at least the the current hope, I guess.
Yeah. So Dave mentioned that he wanted to set up a meeting, and so that you really sorted out. I have no strong opinion on it. I mean, we could create an own area in the CF deployments working group. It doesn't matter so much if nobody works on it in the foundational infrastructure working group or on the application runtime deployments working group. But yeah, it would be good to give it a home and also at least a little bit of capacity so that it survives.
Yeah, I mean, I do recall hearing concern from Dave that although the main use case for it is supporting CF deployment, like if you need to make changes to the actual content of the project itself, it's largely Bosch and infrastructure resources. And so I think that maybe if the CI around it is focused around supporting CF deployment, like I think they're feeling like if they need to go in and make changes to it, now they're in a very unfamiliar world where they're having to actually understand how all these pieces of Bosch and Bosch deployment and Terraform come together.
Yeah, I think it's also like the Terraform bits that are a bit like annoying to maintain from a Bosch point of view, right? Because you don't like know particular like which types of load balancers, like we don't keep up with that. Like what are the current requirements for CF deployment, right? And that's where it becomes a bit tricky. What's like the required way of deploying a CF? That's basically what it entails. Like it has this way of setting up your IaaS in the best way that is aligned with CF. And we don't have that knowledge. But yeah, I think it makes sense for probably me to have a discussion with Dave about this.
Yeah.
We'll set something up. We'll take an action item to do that.
Okay. I'll leave you to add that one in if that's all right. Okay. Looking at the clock, we've got 25-ish minutes and quite a few that could do with a merge. Is it worth us just jumping over to those and getting those merged? Because they're all just modifying Cloud Foundry YAML. So add allow repo archival to org automation, that's number 353.
Yep, there were few PRs recently that wanted to archive a project, and that was not covered by the automation. And this PR suggests to add a certain flag to Peribolus to archive it automatically. I think it's not risky. I mean, from what I read from archiving, should work.
Yeah, it seems fine to me. I'll approve and merge. And merged. So ARI, that's the application runtime interface. Yep. Add private app autoscaler repo, that is 354. looks like we can do it. Let's go ahead and merge that. Okay, on to 359, remove Amelia, Luna, and Bosch teams. Diff looks like it does what it says on the tin.
Is there any, are these still legacy teams? There's no change to the work group charter that's needed here?
Yeah, she worked on the Bosch team for, I don't know, a bit less than a year, I guess. So she wasn't a developer yet. No charter updates, just legacy teams. So just regular offboarding, I guess.
Okay.
No objections to
Seems good.
approving and merging? No. Okay, doke. Done. 360 working groups, build packs, add private repos, remove one.
I think we do need to get Amelia to approve this.
Well,
She conveniently dropped out of the meeting.
yes.
Bad luck.
Yeah, this can just wait until next week then. Review's already been requested, so I'm sure it's on our to-do list.
If any of us want to, on the TOC, want to take a look at this for our approval, it seemed reasonable to me.
Yeah. I will do it.
So the next one, 362 is already merged, which is nice. That's update at runtime platform.md. Okay, add PCAP release, repo to app run plan, app runtime platform.
Okay,
Words.
here I can, there are two, this one PR to merge or to add a repository that doesn't yet exist. So maybe we look at the second issue first. It's a request for a new repository. And here I was slightly unsure what is the correct process. So I simply recommend it because it's some colleagues here that work in the network area with Amelia, and they wanted to create a new tool that allows TCP dumps for end users of Cloud Foundry. Looks pretty cool. There's a recording of the last CF deployment working group meeting if you want to see it in action. And they need a new repository for that one. So I guess there are already some, let's see, I wrote down everything. Yep. So for creating of the repository, of course, we should have a +1 by Amelia because it's a working group, but we have that. Then we should have, I guess, TOC approval, and then probably Chris needs to create the repository.
No, we
And
can
when
just
that is
add it to the org cloud Foundry or cloud. Foundry
just
as
the
well.
org automation, it gets created. Okay. Then we just, yeah, sounds good. Then I will talk with Patrick because he has created this other PR and guide him how to amend it so that it's added, and then we can take over here. That slipped out of my mind.
So it looks like we can, if I understood that, we can just close 363 because it doesn't actually need anything. We've had Amelia's approval, but actually Amelia's approval needs to go on 364, was it? Yeah. Have I understood that right?
Yeah, 364 needs to be amended, and then it needs to be approved by Amelia.
Okay, so I will take care then for letting this one amend and trigger the approval. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll close 363 off because it's not necessary. And there is, and action item on Stephan to go and make the amendments to 363.
Mhm.
Okay. Right. Okay, we can go back to the discussion. Well, now we've got 15 minutes. Are formally track aspiring approvers as reviewers? That is number 333.
We had that as part of the
Yeah.
action items.
Of course we did. Teach me to go to pull up the action items from last time and then just go collect the links. Right. Okay, on to 331 then, which is stem cell release schedule. It looks like a bunch of comments still need addressing by the author.
Yeah, the author, I just heard he is on parental leave, so it will take quite a while.
Okay.
Either we leave it lay around or we close it for now until.
We can convert it to a draft.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Can we? Can it,
Probably.
as not the author of the PR, can we actually do that?
Probably as
I
admin.
think as admins, we probably can. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if there's an obvious way in the UI at the moment.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
under, there's like still in progress, convert to draft thing that is secretly, well, it's a link. It's under the reviewers section over on the right.
Sidebar.
Yes.
Ah, okay, now I got it. Whoa.
I know it's here somewhere.
Is it worth convert to draft then just leave a comment more for ourselves that we're aware this person's out on parental leave, to the we see this next week and don't go through the same motion next week. Okay, I'll convert it to draft and do that now. Done and done. Okay, next up is 279, add application runtime interface RFC for moving build pack dependency repositories to CFF AWS. That's a long title. What's the latest on it? Looks like Greg has incorporated feedback, just wants us to review again. Should we take that as an action item to review it in our own time? Or do we want to sit here and take the time to read? I would vote do this in our own time.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's a
he
lot of text.
just, yeah, okay, yeah. Did he, I thought he just added something at the end to make some fallback plans explicit. Because we had said, if this doesn't work, we want a provision for reverting the CloudFront to VMware, like if it proves too expensive. So I think that's the only thing he added.
Yeah. I think maybe some amendments to the previous commit as well, because it was a forced push.
Yeah. He might have just rebased on the tip of main to make things cleaner.
Are we still all preferring to review it in our own time, or are we happy to start final comment period? Which would people prefer to do?
I'm fine starting a final comment period.
Yeah, because you can clearly
fine
see
as well.
which commits are added, right? There's just 2 commits. That's all changes. that were the result of the discussion. So.
So that's 1 week long, right?
Yep.
That'll be the 26th of July. Okay, on to 340. Archive a couple of repos.
Okay, we should wait. Oh no, we have merged the other one. Okay, then we can merge it technically. That should work now.
Does this need to wait for Greg's approval, given that he left a review with a requested change?
Yeah, we should probably let him verify that all the changes he'd like to see are made.
Yep. Okay, last one then. On to 358, add new CFPs area to that working group. So it has been approved by presumably the working group lead.
Yeah.
Just put up the diff. Rename
okay.
CFPs to Karifi.
This rename, of course, changes the names of the GitHub teams. So again, this if you use the team name somewhere outside of the standard repo assignment, it may have an impact, but yeah, they will see.
Yeah.
Yeah. This looks very Ron Seal to me. Just what it says on the tin. We are happy to merge. Not seeing any objections, so let's pull the trigger. That gets us through the PRs. Any other business? There was a couple of things that Silvestre, you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. I had brought it up in our Runtime interfaces working group, and my questions were then all forwarded to you. I guess see which one was the first one, which one was the second one. I think the first one was yeah, the admin permissions. I think you touched on this earlier, just quickly. So the new teams that are generated have write permission to repos, right? I also looked at and the big issues that I see from daily work is basically that we want to be able to change the branch protection rules, right? We generally want to add new checks, but sometimes we also need to remove outdated checks and so on. And the other thing is that for GitHub Actions in general, you need to provide secrets as well, so that the actions can do either pushes or can access environments like a BBL setup, a Bosch environment, for example, and tokens and so on. And indeed, we actually want to be able to automate this. So in general, secrets for rotation, for example. So in general, we would not like to have to go to our tech lead all the time to say, hey, please change my permission, my branch protection rules, or please change my GitHub secret. And I think that was also brought up by different areas or working groups. So there was one suggestion, I guess, that there's a maintainer role. I quickly checked on the linked page. Maintainer role, unfortunately, does not suffice. It cannot change branch protection rules, and it's not documented. what is about the secrets on this page, but if you look on the secrets page, it also says that admin rights are required. So it seems like you really need admin access to do the things that we think are really necessary quite a lot of times while doing work. Right? And I think in the current state, basically saying, hey, this is the team of approvers, of maintainers, and it only has access rights bright. That is something that would really hinder daily work and really bring productivity down. So I would please ask to reconsider this. Not sure if admin rights for everyone is the right, if you want to restrict that somehow, but certainly some people in an area, not only in a working group, should have admin rights, I think, to their repositories.
Is there perhaps room for like a halfway house between maintainers and admins? Actually, I guess the admin rights can't be split down any further. It's just what GitHub allows.
It feels like you need like an area admin or something. I don't know what that role would be called, but like a list of people in an area that would have admin rights. So something above approver. Because like tech lead is across all the areas, right? And you want to grant people permission per area, I guess. To at least limit the scope a bit, because you do have access to all the secrets, which is a concern.
Greg mentions
you
that
cannot
it's
read them,
possible to have, what is it? You could create your own roles and do then that this feature might be, then we could use maintainer plus branch protection rules or whatever is then needed. Of course, you diverge more and more and more, and it becomes more complex. And this is the other end. Yeah,
I think that might also be a feature of GitHub Enterprise Cloud, which I don't think is what we have.
Ah, okay. Yeah, then the only alternative is, beside reviewers, a area admin section in the YAML, and in addition to workgroup leads, this person would get admin rights. Or option number 3, final option is we keep it as it is, and yeah, of course it means less nice work for the teams.
Do we have provision for this already in the structure? Is this something people can do for themselves already, or is this something that we would have to go and add in as a new RFC and go through that process?
Would be an RFC thing. It's actually that RFC that we've been discussing, that we need a new roles, an updated version of that access RFC, right? This would go in there as well, maybe. I mean, it eventually will result in a change to that.
Yeah, I'm certainly concerned about adding more complexity to the organizational structure. Like we were getting concerned about that just for the reviewers tier of participants as well.
There's one more option. Let's say if it is a specific problem of certain working groups, let's say only the autoscaler has this problem and all the other working groups have not, then maybe it's an option to discuss with Greg whether, for instance, Silvestre could get a technical lead in this area. And you would get the admin rights. That could be a compromise.
Yeah.
Of course, that can also go in the wrong direction, that you have then 20 technical leads. But it doesn't add additional admin users, but one possibility, let's say.
Yeah, and I don't know how many teams are actually using GitHub Actions in that capacity. I mean, So I don't know how widespread this problem is.
Is the action then to go put a message out to working groups, ask them if they're using GitHub Actions, is this a problem that they foresee? Because we lack information at the moment to make any kind of decision.
But actually, isn't that like just go through the RFC process and we can have some discussion there? I mean, it's not really seeing if there's a broader need for it, right? It's just, yeah.
Fair point.
I mean, it's maybe worth asking that before anyone goes to the trouble of writing an RFC that would introduce this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in favor of getting out of people's way and letting them work, but in such a way that it reduces the blast radius. I don't want to stand in people's way. Yeah, I personally would go and informally find out, is this a thing people are concerned about before we do anything formal?
We could amend this discussion simply, and if it's really only autoscaler working groups, then maybe it can be done by approaching Greg and discuss about this technical execution lead thingy, and then it's a matter of trust, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. At the end of the day, it's always a matter of trust.
Yeah, I mean, and app runtime interfaces is a pretty big working group anyway. Having another tech lead, whether that's you, Silvestre, or someone else, could be a good thing for the working group.
Who wants to take this on then?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no application runtime interfaces working group meeting yet. There's a little bit of organizational gaps. There's a CAPI open office hour, but it's just about CAPI, not about the whole working group. So.
Well, then while we don't have that, then I propose, yeah, we just go out and ask the community as a whole if they're going to have this problem. And then at least if everybody says no, we know that it's just a discussion we need to have with that
Isn't
group.
it like, but that's like a lot of context that you have to transfer in a simple question. Like, isn't it?
I mean, the question should also not be about GitHub Actions, but rather, do you foresee problems when you no longer have admin access to your repos? Right.
So it's the branch protection probably also, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's just setting up the branch protection rules, right? I think even maintainers have pretty broad access to push to make pretty arbitrary changes on branches outside of the default branch. I mean, I think this will get entangled with we want to have that proposed change to grant the approvers maintainer rights instead of just rights on the repos in their area. So maybe the question is does this resolve enough problems in terms of access, or are there other outstanding issues that that gap between maintainer and admin scope? Is there a big problem with that?
But do we have maintainer? I couldn't.
At the moment, we have write access, but of course, this can be changed if there is enough.
Does that role?
But are you saying can we assign people that role? I don't know.
I think I've looked into that a while back or something. Maybe that is something something to do with custom plans or something. I don't know. I don't know if it even exists.
I don't know. I mean, this is. I thought we were looking at. Let me grab the link to the GitHub docs. This looked like it was just regular GitHub docs.
Yeah.
I don't know how recent the introduction of that maintain role is. Oh, this is interesting. I'm just looking at the access settings on the community repo. When I look at individual people, I just see read, write, and admin.
Yeah.
But when I filter by role, maintain is on the list.
I exactly had the same. So I can only select like member or owner as a role.
I am conscious that it is now
Yeah, we are.
5 minutes over. Do we want to continue this today, or do we want to take it as the first agenda item next week? Votes?
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
Okay. Stick it down as the first agenda item next week then.
Yeah, maybe in the meantime, Silvestre can reach out to Greg to see if there's an actual appetite for getting him the tech lead role.
Sure.
Right. I mean,
I will do so. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And that's us for this week then. Got through plenty. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a good
Thanks, everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.